Story 1. The Voice in the Woods. It was a quiet summer night in July 2013, and I was home alone for the first time in my life. My parents had gone on a week-long trip, leaving me to fend for myself in our secluded house in Newark, Ohio. The backyard was surrounded by dense woods, and the only sounds were the chirping of crickets and the occasional rustle of leaves. I was on the deck, smoking weed and listening to music, trying to relax. Around midnight, I heard a voice calling from the woods. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but it grew louder. "Hey, over here," it said. I turned off the music and listened. The voice called again. "We need help." It was deep and male, and it sounded like it was coming from about 20 yards into the woods. I hesitated, unsure if I should respond. "Who is that?" I called back, my voice trembling. "We're stuck in the woods. Please help," the voice replied. I felt a chill run down my spine. Something about the situation felt off, but I couldn't ignore someone in need. I grabbed a flashlight and walked toward the edge of the yard, calling out, "Where are you?" "Straight in front of you. I see you," the voice said. I froze. The flashlight beam barely pierced the darkness, and I couldn't see anyone. My gut told me to turn back, but I took a few more steps. "Are you alone?" I asked. There was no answer. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding. As I reached the deck, I heard the voice again, closer this time. "Please, come help us," it pleaded. I ran inside, locking all the doors and windows. A few minutes later, I heard splashing near the pool. I peeked through the blinds and saw a man hiding behind it. His dark hair was barely visible in the moonlight, and he was staring right at me. "I see you," he said with a laugh. I screamed, "Get out of here! I'm calling the police!" He banged on the window, yelling, "Help!" before his laughter faded into the night. I stayed inside, trembling, wondering what would have happened if I'd gone into the woods. The next morning, I found muddy footprints near the pool, but the man was gone. I never saw him again, but I'll never forget that voice in the woods. Story 2. The Stranger in the House. I was 23 and still living with my parents. One afternoon, I was playing basketball in the front yard when I looked up and saw a woman staring at me from an upstairs window. She wasn't my mom or sister. I froze, the ball slipping from my hands. When I blinked, she was gone. I rushed inside, calling out, "Hello? Is anyone here?" The house was silent. I searched every room, every closet, even the basement, but there was no sign of her. My neighbor heard me yelling and came over to help. We searched the house again, but she was nowhere to be found. "Maybe she left through the back door," my neighbor said. I nodded, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still in the house. I locked all the doors and called my parents, who told me to check if anything was stolen. Everything seemed to be in place, but I couldn't relax. That night, as I tried to sleep, I heard noises coming from under my bed. I turned on the lamp and saw the woman crawling out. She stood tall, her dirty hair hanging in her face, and stared at me with wild eyes. I screamed and tackled her to the floor, pinning her down. "Who are you? What do you want?" I shouted, my hand around her throat. She scratched at my arms, leaving deep marks, but I held on. My neighbor heard the commotion and came running. Together, we restrained her until the police arrived. The officers recognized her immediately. "That's Karen," one of them said. "She's been breaking into houses for weeks." Karen screamed and cursed at us as they handcuffed her. "You'll regret this," she yelled. I watched as they took her away, feeling a strange mix of fear and satisfaction. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how close I'd come to danger. The scratches on my arms healed, but the memory of that woman crawling out from under my bed still haunts me.